Number 37, People versus Jeremy Shue, 23589
Why
Epic.
do Okay. Good afternoon, Your Honor. Robert J. Kilwald on behalf of Mr. Shue. Jeremy, would you state your name for the record?
Jeremy Shue.
Judge, I gave you a diagram, if you can see it. And I wish it were in color, but since it's not, the dark area is his inclusion zone, meaning he can the tether, he has
You
boundaries.
can be there.
Right. And I talked to Jeremy about this, and here's the question that we have to ask. He was confined to his home by you and Judge Simpson. Jeremy was under the impression, after speaking with tether people, that as long as he didn't leave the inclusion zone, he wouldn't be violated. And as you can see, I'd say 80% of the incursions are still within that zone. So the question that I have to you, Your Honor, is I guess we just need a definite explanation. When you say when he's confined to his home, does that simply mean he can't step out of his doorway, or can he just be in this inclusion zone? Because if that's the case, I don't think he violated anything, because the signals that are outside that were for appointments, like for Social Security and things like that. Now, he did lose his phone, so he did step out of the inclusion zone, but he went back in when the buzzer went off. So, and this is what he's been arrested for. So, what I'm asking, Your Honor, is to clarify, if he's home confinement, but he can be in this inclusion zone, I don't know why he was arrested, Your Honor. So, I have to convince you to give this man a second chance, and then I have to convince Judge Simpson.
Let me interrupt you. Do you mind if I talk to your client?
Sure.
We have some history between us, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
so I'm gonna say some things, and I'm gonna ask you some things, and I really honestly don't want you to take offense to them, because I
No,
want
sir.
to sort of have a bit of a candid conversation.
Yes,
So
sir.
I want to remind you that I was fine with you leaving jail, and I may, in fact, still be fine with you leaving jail. But I have to tell you that there's a bit of a theory here. Do you know the cartoon Peanuts? Do you know what I'm talking about? Charlie
Yes,
Brown? That.
yes, I do.
So here's the character. This is where I don't want you to take offense. So just bear with me as I describe this. You present a little bit like the character from that comic called Pigpen. Not that you're unkempt or you're dirty or anything like that, but if you remember what Pigpen looked like in the cartoon, he always had kind of a swirling cloud around him.
Yes,
And
sir.
so I let you out, Mr. Shu. And the problem is that, like, you kind of like, you want me to believe you, and I kind of do actually. But then I don't know how to say this that's not unnatural, that doesn't include vulgarity, then all this other shit happens. And so, like, you're a smart guy. And, as you present yourself, like, you need a wheelchair. But then part of the description in the violation report is that you were out jogging. I'm good for you if you're out jogging, doing physical therapy, but it's just these data points that are kind of all over the map, when I really want to just ask you to tone your life down a little bit, like pull it in so that I can believe you with confidence without all these other like things happening, or the allegations that, I mean, if we want to go back, like it's when you were going to the one facility and you wouldn't get out of the van, and like, I'm not, that has nothing to do with this case, and I'm not holding that against you, but it's just kind of another example where I generally want to believe in Jeremy Shue, and for some periods of time I don't ever hear from you or see you, which leads me to believe you're kind of living your normal life and not getting into trouble. But then these other crazy things start happening. So I'm going to answer Bob Kilowald's question. While I don't necessarily know a hard and fast answer to home confinement, meaning that I don't think it necessarily means you may not exit your home, like you can't sit on your porch, go out in your front yard or your backyard and let your dog out or that kind of thing. I would take home confinement generally to mean that you cannot leave your property boundaries, like your yard, your front yard, side yard, backyard, driveway. I don't see home confinement as including the the circle inclusion zone, which includes the entire neighborhood, basically. So that said, I'm not faulting you maybe for misunderstanding that. I mean, I don't know, because I told you I don't think there's a definition of what that means that's hard and fast. But what I'm looking for is kind of some assurance from you that if I let you out, and I don't know what Judge Simpson's going to do, but if we let you out again, how can we tone this down? Not so much like you're not upsetting me. Like, this is my job, but you want to live your life, and now you're back in custody. And so we don't want this to spiral downward. So what can we do to make your life more stable or more whatever?
The only thing that me and Mr. Kilowall spoke. I'm sorry, I think I'm getting sick. Me and Mr. Kilowall spoke. Can I address one comment that was made by Your Honor and it was stated violation?
Are you blaming me for calling you Pigpen? Because I told you.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I actually find that funny, and it does.
We all have those days, Mr. Shu.
Yes,
I can inhabit that space as well. Look at Mr. Kilowatt. He's your twin that way too.
Thanks, Judge. I really, man.
Go ahead. I'm
It's been a
sorry.
rough day, man.
Go ahead.
I'm not mad at Your Honor. I'm not.
Tired one of these days.
I don't hold no hostility. I understand your reference. The only thing that I'll say is me and Mr. Kilowatt spoke. My fiance lives at lot 320. I'm at lot 257. My fiance has been my caregiver for physical therapy. I was told by a physical therapist that if I don't start working my left side, that my left side will possibly ostrify. I need that the inclusion zone, part of the inclusion zone that I was doing was as I was out walking, like as I came into court, kind of limping. If I don't work this left side, I'm gonna lose my muscle movement in my left side. The only thing that I would ask Your Honor to do is possibly include to where I am allowed to go to my fiance's for physical therapy and possibly walk back and forth. When approved by the agent. I don't mean to do this at like 2:00 in the morning. I understand whatever time limit Your Honor gives.
So, I'm sorry. Let me interrupt you to cut to the chase. So what is your address?
Literally like right on the corner of where Lane meet.
All right. Mr. Emmons, I haven't heard from you yet. I mean, I'm trying to sort of come up with something. If I were to allow home confinement to include his residence and his girlfriend's residence with those two addresses, and he could travel between them at reasonable hours approved by probation on foot or in vehicle. What are your thoughts about that?
Couple things. Not to be approved by probation because I don't think he's been sentenced.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is community corrections.
And yes. I wanted to bring that point up because I've talked to Mr. Levitt from community corrections about this. And in my discussions with him, again, you know my position when he was released the first time. I now look at Mr. Shu to continue on the film history with the Peanuts. I've always thought about him as the raptors from Jurassic Park testing the fences, continuing to push the boundary to see what he can get away with. I talked to Mr. Levitt about this. It's not like these two things were the only times that they've ever had contact with Mr. Shu. Mr. Shu knows the score. He knows what's required of him. At no point in time, at any time, was it brought up with Your Honor, and I very much doubt that it was brought up with Judge Simpson about inclusion zones and what that's going to attain. What we talked about was home confinement with the possibility that he could potentially go to these different appointments, right? And what do we have? We have him all over testing those fences throughout the entire period. I know that Mr. Levitt has reached out to him and other people have reached out to him to remind him what the terms of his conditions are. To continue on the Peanuts, I understand what the court wants to do. I just want to make sure that he doesn't take over the personality of Lucy and keep pulling the football.
That's
That's actually the reference I thought he
I
was.
totally actually appreciated the Velociraptor illusion. Lucy thing, yeah, that's fair. All right.
I just want to make sure that if we're going to do this, that he knows what the score is.
I hope that you're hearing me say, Mr. Shu, like honest to God, I don't think Mr. Emmons is wrong.
No,
Like I don't think I'm going to tell you that you're too smart a man to extrapolate home confinement to inclusion zone. Like I'm not, but that said, I'm not faulting you for testing the fences, if you will. But I guess what worries me is that if Mr. Levitt kind of reaches out to you and is like, "Hey, Mr. Shu, get back in your house," and then it becomes a belligerence kind of thing, that's where this has to stop. So this is the points of reference, like when I'm talking about the chaos, because I believe you struggle sometimes with authority and or kind of contrary opinions to your own. And so I'm just telling you that whether it comes from community corrections or me or whoever, like you're in the court's eye. And I want you to be successful. I know Bob Killawall does. I'm going to venture that Mr. Emmons does too.
I do too, sir.
So if we were to proceed, are you 100% clear when I say home confinement? That mean I would say this. I would define that as your front yard, backyard, side yard, driveway of your residence.
Yes, sir.
I would say that I would be willing, based on your physical therapy request, to include the interior of your girlfriend's residence. And I would include a direct path between your house and hers, whether that's a sidewalk or a street, that if part of your therapy involved walking, that you not stray or you not venture around it's not a different route every time. It is the most direct route between your house and her house. I'm willing to give that a shot and see how that goes. I can't promise you Judge Simpson will feel the same, but I'm telling you what my thoughts are.
So just to clarify then, Judge basically is saying his own property where the mobile home is.
Front yard, backyard,
and
side,
nothing changes as far as the hour before, the hour after, as far as those appointments for housing.
I'm not.
Okay.
And as long as there's not a worry about that violation, but
right.
If he needs to go somewhere, yes.
Okay. And then the other exception is where the girlfriend's house for physical therapy.
Let's say during daylight hours.
Okay.
He may be between his house and his girlfriend's house with the address given. When he's there, like, I don't want this to be a situation where, I'm calling home confinement. If you need to be at her place, I guess I would rather she come to your place to help you with physical therapy. But if you need to go to hers, go to her residence, but be inside. This isn't you wandering around her yard to do your work. So if you need to do more walking, do it on your own property. But if you need to be at her house, I'm going to say that's okay.
And Judge, can we define daylight hours just so we're all clear? Like what, from
7 a.m. till 5 p.m.
Okay. Jeremy, you got that?
Yes, sir. I got that.
Means no
totally
overnights.
Arbitrary, but there you go.
Judge, and let me just say this. Judge Simpson gave him a 365-day sentence, credit for 187 days. But he did say, depending on what you said, he would reconsider his sentence.
I have to work this separate thing out because we're still pre-trial.
And did I hear you say you're going to call Judge Simpson?
I'm not calling Judge Simpson.
Okay.
I like Judge Simpson. I'm not going to not call him, but I'm not calling him to convince. But you can share with him because you're going to need to deal with this with him too, right?
I guess I'm going to have to file a motion, and I know Mr. Emmons won't oppose it, I don't think.
Well, I'm not the guy.
Well, we'll see what we can do. Jeremy, do you understand everything? Because
yes, I completely understand everything. I would like to say something for the record. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Emmons. Even I understand the conversation that I had with Mr. Levitt when he put the tether on is I was informed by him, maybe rightfully, maybe wrongfully, that if I happened to step outside the zone, when the tether beeped, as long as I was back within the zone, I was okay.
Jeremy, that's not
I understand. I understand that. The
You
other,
understand? You
I can
understand we have to
totally
convince Judge
everything.
Simpson.
Yes, I understand everything on record.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right. So I'm just making note that you can be released on PR in my case. That I'm noting home confinement defined as Shu's residence, girlfriend's interior residence, and direct walk between
Yes, sir.
the hours of 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And nothing changes as far as the
Nothing else changed.
initial.
All I'm noting is home confinement is defined as. So I still have you back here on January 3rd
Yes,
for the
sir.
sentencing, and we'll go from there. Okay?
I'll see you then, sir. Thank you. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Okay. Yep, you too.
All right, thanks, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Have a nice Thanksgiving.
And I didn't really mean to call you Pigpen, but kind of I'm Pigpen myself.
That's all right. I feel like it. Does Pigpen drink?
Well, he's a child in the comics, Mr. Kilowald, so